All right, we're live, but we don't have anyone in the audience yet. So
We need Frank as well, right? So
yeah, I have to wait for him to there we go. There's someone in here now. There we go.
there he is.
Okay. Welcome. Okay, we're good.
All right. Well, I will officially call the work session to order, and we only have a single agenda item tonight, which let me read what it actually says. Update on the recommendations from the plan for reform and reimagining of the Irvington Police Department. So I think this is just really an update, as well as kind of reminding us what we still need to work on, as well as, probably think about how we want to prioritize some of the items, especially the more difficult, time-consuming ones. Frank, first, how are you feeling? I see you're back in the office.
Yes, I'm back, feeling much better. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. But I guess with that, my understanding, I don't know if you want to give us kind of an update, Chief, or if you just want to kind of go through the list and the updates. I don't know, Larry, did you want to share them?
Yeah, I'm gonna put them up on the screen when we're moving on to this. So yeah, this is an update. The last time we did this was August, when we were all intimately packed into the village meeting room back in the old days.
Yes.
In a brief time period where we actually had an in-person meeting. So anyway, let me get the screen shared here, and I'll turn it over to Frank to run through some of these. All right, can you see that?
Sure can.
Yes, thank you. So I'm basically just want to give you an update on some of the ones that are highlighted first. And then if we want to go back and talk about some of the other ones that are still on the list and prioritize how we want to tackle those, we could go back and do that. The last update back in August, I know we have two new board members since then, Arlene and Mitchell. Arlene, I know you're probably a little bit more familiar just from being on the police reform committee. Mitchell, if you have any questions as I'm going, please just stop me and ask, because I might say things that I think people know about, but you might not know since you weren't on the committee at that point.
Thank you.
No problem. The first one I just wanted to touch base on was Project Able. Since the last update, I think the last update, we had 2 officers that were trained as instructors for Project Able. Since then, we've certified just about everybody in the police department with Project Able, which Able stands for Active Bystandership for Law Enforcement. It's a program that was created through Georgetown Law, and really what it is it's a program that encourages officers to take an active role in intervening when they know or see something is going awry. And it really encourages it at all levels, from the top down to the bottom, with no repercussions. It really is there to promote, citizen support of law enforcement, community police relations, officer health and wellness. And the benefits are reduction of civilian complaints, reduction of disciplinary action, risks of lawsuits, and unnecessary harm. So we've had almost everybody trained. We have a few more people to get trained just based on scheduling and with the pandemic. And the idea is to get a few more people trained as instructors, so that when we have new recruits that come out of the academy or transfers, we could get them trained on Able as soon as they get out. And additionally, there's a refresher course every year that we have to host here. So it's a few hours long, and it's just a refresher course on the curriculum of Able. So that's where we stand with Project Able.
Have you got any feedback from the membership?
You took the words right out of my mouth, Brian.
So, that's something I was thinking about in the last few weeks, is just kind of how do you measure it, or how do you know it's worth it or succeeding? And it's really a very difficult thing to do. Everybody that's taken the course so far has enjoyed it. I've heard, even in a joking manner, people are, speaking about it still. So that's a good thing. It's not take it and forget about it. It's something that's still in people's minds. So I think they've enjoyed the course. I'm hoping, that if it's necessary, they're utilizing the techniques and tools that have been taught in the course. And, we may or may not know about it at any point. So it's hard. It's a hard thing to measure, but I think it's worthwhile still.
It's also sort of like a cultural program, right? It's about sort of the culture of the department and the officers, irrespective of rank, being able to sort of feel that they can speak up if necessary. So I think it really, you probably won't hear, right? Like if everything is going well, you're not going to hear about it. That's the intent. It's only when I think people have to step outside of, or something's happening and it's creating that environment where they can speak up. So yeah, this one's, I think, a hard one to measure, but I think, grateful that our police are being trained in this and that we're not hearing anything, because that's actually a good thing. You're doing everything right then.
That's the goal. The next one I just wanted to briefly mention was exploring development of a training library. We've been using Power DMS as a tool for our manual and for some other things. We've also explored the use of it for training and hosting a training library on there. So far, we've been able to create one class on Power DMS program, which is an annual in-service for use of force, which covers all the Article 35 use of force requirements by New York State. So everybody logs in. It's a video class that they have to take. They take an exam at the end of class and they get a certificate at the end if they pass the exam. This is required as a yearly training by the state. So what's nice about having it through Power DMS now is we could give officers a time frame where they need to complete the training. They can log in at any time on their leisure as far as what shift they're on, take the course, complete the test, get their certification, submit it, and move on. And it's not something that we have to do in person anymore. And, as we create more and more training, the in-person training, we have to dedicate that to stuff that actually has to be there. The more stuff we can move to an online website type platform benefits us with training time overall. So it's something that we're exploring to use for more courses. It's not that easy to create content, but it will take time. But once you do it, and it's there for each year, it really works out well, I think. And it's just a matter of building up the course curriculums in there. So,
Chief, I know there's other departments that are using that platform. Is any of the training shareable? I wonder if that's something that will speed things up a bit.
yeah, so the Article 35 use of force, I actually got through the state. I've been reaching out to other places that are using Power DMS to see. Some of it's very specific and tailored to their department. Some of it you could pull is a little bit more generalized. So it's just a matter of picking and choosing different parts of it. But yeah, that is something we're looking at.
Yeah, but we're not alone on that platform, which is great.
Yes, correct. Moving on to body cameras. I don't know if anybody's had the privilege of seeing any of our officers on the street lately, but just for about over a month now, we've deployed a full deployment of our body-worn camera systems. Every officer you'll see has a camera located on their uniform. It's being turned on during any interactions as far as what the policy states they have to do. I think in the last month that we've been live with it, we've created over 500 pieces of evidence or video with the body cameras. So it's been successful so far. We haven't run into any real issues with it. We haven't had any equipment problems or software problems or anything like that. We've been doing pretty well for the first month, and officers are getting used to, the policy and wearing them and putting them on. And they've been very good about it, and they've been doing a pretty good job at it too. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about the body camera program.
So it's totally manual. They turn it on when there's an interaction, and they can turn it off when the interaction is over.
Right now, that's how it is, but we do have equipment that we're implementing now where if a gun is drawn, it'll trigger the cameras to turn on. There's going to be equipment that once it's installed, when the lights on the cars go on, the emergency lighting, the cameras will trigger to go on. And also when a less lethal weapon like a taser is pulled out, will trigger the cameras to go on. But that stuff is still being installed, so it's not up and running yet. So right now it's all just on manual, use.
And how long is the footage stored for?
Depending on what kind of footage it is, there's different retention categories based on what type of call or complaint or interaction it is. So it could be anywhere from 1 year to 5 years to indefinite, depending on what it is.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next section, talking about improving the process for public feedback on officers, both not anonymous and anonymous. If you've had a chance to go on our website recently, we've created feedback areas on the website where, and I think it's later on in the list, but there's a spot where you can click if you want to leave a compliment for an officer or an employee of the police department, where you click on it and it's a fillable form and you click submit and it will get emailed to the police department. Same thing goes if you want to leave or make a complaint against somebody that's employed by the police department. What we've done is come up with some detailed guidelines about the process of the complaint so that people could read about it. They could drop the form off in person. They could come in and do it. They could do it online and submit it electronically. They could mail it. We've really opened up the process to people being able to make a complaint in all different manners, so that it's not you have to come in, you have to sit with a sergeant and you have to fill out this paperwork. Otherwise, we're not going to, take the complaint. It's much more broad now, much easier for people to come in to file a complaint or do it online. And what we've done on the complaint form is if somebody wishes to leave an anonymous complaint, they can click on that. What we'll do is bring up almost the same amount of boxes, but where the information is that you have to enter for a name or contact information, you're allowed to leave that blank and submit your complaint anonymously. And there's no way of tracking it. It comes through email to a security email, and there's no way of knowing who submitted it. So that's another option that we've never had before. That's now live on our website too.
Sorry, have you received any comments through the site yet?
No, that's been live for about 2 months now, I would say, and I haven't received any comments through there.
How has it been publicized? Do people know about it? Because I know this is the first that I've heard about it. Is there a way for in one of the village bulletins or something that we can publicize that? Or
I'll definitely mention it in my next email, which I actually have one that I've been meaning to send out. So I'll add this to it as well.
Yep.
And I mean it for the compliments as much as for criticisms. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that, obviously we have positive interactions all the time, and it'd be great to know that people can do that. Like, I would love to have submitted one after the help I got, on Halloween. And I know it didn't exist then, but I'm just saying, like, it would have been nice, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's good for people to know that.
Yeah, it would definitely be good to spread the word on that, because I mean, generally now people will just send emails or write letters. It'd be good if it's in one spot. It's easier to collect that information that way and keep track of it too. So we are going to update the initial page of the website with the what's new section to show what's changed, and also promote it on our social media, to check out our website and see what's new. So we could do that as well.
We'll highlight it on the main village site. We have a section about how do I, do various tasks, and we can make sure that's on there. So. Okay. Any other questions there, or move on? Okay.
So I highlighted formal review of the IPD website. Basically just talk about mostly about the complaint and the compliment procedure. We've also, and it's on the next section, simplifying the Freedom of Information Law request process. What we've done there is we brought the FOIL request, kind of was hidden on our website, not purposely, but it just happened to be that you had to do a couple clicks to get to it. What I've done is I brought that out to the main page now, where you could click on FOIL and you could either download it and fill it out, or you could fill it out. It's a fillable form online now and submit it via email. You don't have to come in any longer and submit a hard copy. So the FOIL request has been simplified to be electronic as well now, and it's right there on the front page of our website. It's not hidden, in a couple clicks. So that's one of the things we've done to the website. It's going to be, you know, a continuous review of the website and try to enhance it and make it better and easier to use and easier to find information on that. And, you know, as we do updates to it, we'll try to put it in a what's new section and so people know about it.
Frank, can people sign up for an IPD email? Is there like a newsletter the way they are for other departments?
We don't have that right now. I mean, generally, if I want to send anything out via that, I would send it to Larry and Larry would send it out on the village's email blast. And I know there's different categories people can sign up for. I don't know if the police department has its own category, Larry.
No, we don't have that. There's no reason why you can't, but if, depending on the frequency of what you send, using the village-wide mailing list is fine also. But if there's some value in having it separate, we're happy to set that up. It's as easy as a click of a button.
Okay.
We just what we did in the past, just so you know, the kind of the thought process behind it is, you know, there were different areas of messages that were going out that were kind of distinct and, you know, not necessarily appealing to all groups of people. So like recreation notices, you know, wouldn't be appealing necessarily maybe to people who don't have children or whatever, or, you know, that type of thing. So we have a separate recreation mailing list. Library is the same way. Happy to break out the police if you think there's value in doing that, but that's the thought process behind why we have separate lists.
Yeah, maybe that's something we could explore and see. Would people need to then re-log in and click on that specifically, or would it go to like everybody and then they could unsubscribe? Or
no, they would have to subscribe to that. But we can, you know, we could publicize it and get people to encourage them to update their subscriptions, that type of thing. So
great.
but that wouldn't be a problem if we decide to implement that. So
okay. I think I skipped over deploying a mobile application, and so far we've that's what our Power DMS program is. It's our mobile application that is on every police phone. So officers on the street have it with them at all times. They could log in and check any of our policies, procedures, any forms. They could search keywords so they're not sitting there scrolling through, you know, hundreds of pages. And it's really quite user-friendly. I use it all the time myself, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on that. So very happy about that portion of it. One that's not highlighted, I just wanted to give a very quick update on is the accreditation process. It's still an ongoing process. The state has just recently, this past week, released some courses that we have been able to sign up, some accreditation management courses that we've been able to sign up a few members of the department to go through. So that will help with the accreditation process. You need to have an official manager of the process, which is going to be Lieutenant Johnson. I know we've spoken in the past about it, but he'll actually get the full accreditation management training, hopefully sometime in March if the class is still on. The goal is to get a few people trained as accreditation managers just to help with the program and move it along a little bit quicker. So we're still going through lots of policies. It takes a little bit longer, you know, than you would think to just go through a policy and make the edits and get them up to date. And we're including a lot of the comments and feedback we got from the village's labor council on some of the policies that we've been working on as well. So it's a little bit of a time-consuming process, but it is still in process. So we're making, you know, slow and steady progress on that. I highlighted enhancing crime statistics, and what I really wanted to talk about with that is we've been, and I know Arlene, I spoke to you about this, but we've been tracking now all motor vehicle stops, something we never did before. We really had no way of tracking all motor vehicle stops the way we were doing things in the past. So now what we've done is every time a motor vehicle is stopped, regardless of if a summons is issued or not, we're making a report about it. So now we're keeping track of all stops, ones that result in summonses and ones that don't result in summonses. Certain information is collected on the summons that is not available to be collected if a summons is not issued, like certain demographic information, which we're hoping when we switch over to a new records management system is something that we could adjust and fix. But at this time, we're not able to do that. But we are starting to keep better statistics on things like traffic stops and stuff like that, even though if you're not consider that crime statistic, but I think it's still an important statistic to keep track of.
And
Chief,
Frank, I do, oh, go ahead, sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
well, I'm going to go slightly off topic. So if you have a direct response, a question, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to highlight that, that Frank, we talked about the certain demographic information, that the reason currently it's not being collected is because the way the record management system, it would create a record for that person. So that you're looking at ways with a new record management system to be able to data that's going to be useful data, but currently creates sort of an unintended result of a stop for that person. So I think that's important to mention.
Right. So basically with our current system, if I wanted to keep track of demographic information and pull somebody over and give them a warning, we'd have to enter their name and information into the report just to collect that information, creating a police record on somebody that normally wouldn't have a police record of any sort if we were just to give a verbal warning. So like I said, hopefully with the new records management system, there'll be a way to get around that where you could enter demographic information without a person's name and birthday and other information in there.
So my question was really directly related to what you were just talking about, but not in terms of traffic stops, but other potential violations like landscaper, leaf blower violations, tree removal violations, where maybe you're giving a first warning to someone or what, but how do you track, if they don't actually get a violations issued to them, so that you have to actually realize, oh, this is the second time we've told them that they need to have a permit, or they need not, I'm talking about, or not operate the blower in certain calendar months. Because right now, what we've heard in the past was there's no record of any of that kind of history.
So with a complaint like that, anytime we respond to that, there is a record generated for that. And we do keep, a blotter record of what company was on scene, who we spoke to, et cetera. So we will have a record if we go to the same place twice, whether it's the same address, or if we go to two different places, but it's the same company and we've warned them before, and now this is a second violation or third violation. So we do have a record of that. Not sure in the past if there was records of that being kept or not, but I know right now and since last year or so, we have been keeping a record of every complaint like that, whether or not a violation summons is issued. So if a warning was issued, we have a record. If a violation was issued, we still have the same record now.
And not just landscapers, but I'm thinking there's a whole class of these things like noise complaints and things like that, where a facility or a location may be getting multiple noise complaints over the course of several months. And, as long as there's a record kept so that at some point action can be taken when it needs to be. Like, I don't know what, the policy in terms of 1, 2, or 3 strikes before a violation, but I guess it depends on severity of the situation.
Yes, so we do keep any call for service, and that any of those would be a call for service. We do generate an official record and report on it, regardless, even if it's unfounded or there's a violation issued or a warning issued. So we do have records of every call for service that we go on. Once again, even if we go there and there's no noise whatsoever, it's still going to show that somebody called us, that we responded to that location, and what the findings were. So we do have records of that. And as far as when violations are issued, it's especially with noise complaints, it's a little bit tricky, but we keep track of who's constant violators, and if a violation is warranted, we do try to issue them as much as possible to try to curtail the issue.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I think those last two on that list, establishing the complement procedure I already spoke about, and then also re-examining, improving the complaint procedure. I spoke about on the website. I think, once you take a look at it, I think you'll find it's a lot easier now to submit both of those.
And what did you do with the FOIL? You said you simplified it.
So the FOIL request now, I brought it, it used to take like 2 or 3 clicks to get to the part where you need to access the FOIL request form online. I brought that out to the main page, and we also made it a fillable form online so that you could just fill it out and submit it on the website. You don't have to hand fill it out. You don't have to mail it in. You don't have to come in person and fill it out. And you could submit it just via email online on the fillable form, and we will be able to respond to you that way.
Frank, that's all on I think that's right, all on the first page of the website, like on the left side, because I think I saw the FOIL request on that list of like you could report a issue, you could report a compliment. I thought you could click right on to.
Yes, that's correct. Right on the bottom of that list is a FOIL request for police documents. So once again, it was hidden in the documents and form center. And we just, since it's one of the recommendations was to make it a little bit easier, we just pulled it out of there and put it on the main page so that it's kind of staring you right in the face if you need to access it. Is that everything on the list, or is there another?
There's another page, but I don't think there's much on it. Yeah, no, it's just a explanation.
And I just was going to touch base real quick on one that I didn't highlight, but just establishing a policy for the use of business cards by police officers. So we have a prototype of the card made up, and we're working on a policy currently just to make sure that we're doing it the right way in the right situations, also with keeping officer safety. But we do plan on having that roll out in the near future, where officers are going to be able to hand out business cards as the recommendation states in the police reform report.
Frank, also, one other thing that we talked about, which was, and we talked about this in the committee, to have a continuation of the civilian police committee in some form. So that is something that is ongoing, right? That we sort of need to develop.
Yeah, that was one of the recommendations, and I think it's right there on the bottom of on the list there. But yes.
So I mean, where we're at on that obviously is there's two things that have to be figured out. First is what the role of that police community council is, or whatever words you decide to use, what the role is. And then obviously you need to find appointments to fill that role to a committee, decide how big it is, how small it is, whatever your choice is. The police report didn't make a recommendation on it really very much in the way of specifics on that. So it's at the discretion of the Board of Trustees. So I'm sure Chief Pignatelli's ready to respond to it when you're ready. So, but that's on your plate.
And then I remember that there was a little bit of a follow-on from the trustees, specifically from myself, that wasn't in the main body of the recommendations, but was secondarily brought up in terms of technology review. And the specific case, what reminded me of this was the formalized peaceful protest surveillance policy, but more specifically, its use of things like face recognition software through whoever the company that sells it or rents it, as a service to various police and law enforcement agencies, as an example. But we had talked about wanting to have more visibility into that process before such new technologies are selected. And by we, I mean the Board of Trustees having an understanding of some of these potential technology decisions that might actually be more, have a political and social dimension to them beyond just the strict law enforcement dimension.
Yes, I remember speaking, Mark, about that with the facial recognition technology. And I mean, I don't know about what the, a formal policy would be, but I know that anytime we would want to implement any type of new software or program like that, we would have to, I believe we would propose it to the board and then have those discussions ahead of time before we would ever implement something like that just on our own.
Well, specific, yes, I remember that's what we had talked about, but specifically in this case, that software was, kind of, I don't recall if it was free for trial. So in other words, whether you could get like a certain amount of searches on it, or whether you had a certain number of months to try it out before you had to commit to it. So that seemed to be a little bit of a loophole in the sense that one could imagine officers making use of it without really seeing it as an issue of technology acquisition, if you know what I'm saying. It wouldn't be a budget item if it was a free trial period. So that's kind of the concern of how do we make sure there's not that sort of, I don't know the better word than a loophole, but there's visibility in that kind of activity, even if it is on a trial basis, so that we really understand what's going on.
Yes, and I know we had spoke about that too, and there was a free trial that occurred with that facial recognition technology, and then we put out an order to stop the use of that completely. But even in moving forward, if there is even an area that we want to trial out, I wouldn't allow that to happen without first having a discussion with the board about it and implementing the proper safeguards and policies, for the use of any equipment or software like that could have the potential, ramifications of stuff like that. And, on top of it, officers aren't, allowed to just sign up and register for stuff like that on their own without approval. So, the police administration would be able to keep an eye on what people are doing internally so that something like that wouldn't slip by.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think the two areas in particular that got me a little bit of concern is, we are having, again, it's potentially the wrong word, but a proliferation of public cameras in Irvington. And also now with the use of body-worn cameras, I mean, the steps of doing further post-processing on those feeds or that recorded matter is, it's a slippery slope, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Not just as evidentiary recordings, but as trying to get more information out of them.
Yep. I definitely recall that discussion, and if I remember correctly, the report, when it was adopted, in the process of adopting the report, you had a few modifications to it. And that was one of them, or maybe even two of them, kind of two different topics. But what I need to do, I just made a note to myself. I just want to make sure that our little tracking spreadsheet is including that extra modification that was done upon adoption. You know what I'm saying? These were generated from the base recommendations that were in the report. I just want to be sure that we're tracking it as well, so we don't lose sight of it. So appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, I think it wasn't, I think if I remember correctly, there was some debate about changing the base report. And so then the report, if I remember correctly, the report was adopted, but then a couple items were added as kind of like an appendix or as a secondary, but
yes, it was
key concerns.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's how we did it, because we didn't want to modify the committee's report, but we did it, we did have an amendment to it. So I'll make sure those are contained in this tracking, just so that we don't lose sight of it. I mean, obviously the chief
Thank you.
heard you anyway, but I want to make sure we track it. All right.
I guess one final question for the chief is, there's a lot of these that are, some are listed as simple, not difficult, and some are listed as difficult. And in research, some are in research and blah, blah, blah. Do you have the resources you need to move forward? And the second question is, what does outside mean as a status?
So outside, sorry, Larry.
I'm gonna scroll down actually to the end, because I think I have a little key here, but it's basically Maybe it's not even there. I should have it out there. Anyway, it requires outside intervention. It requires a change by an outside level of government to make it happen. We can lobby for the change, but we can't make that change ourselves. So it requires
outside village government.
Outside the village, outside levels of government. Maybe it's not the best word to use, but that's what it means.
Are these county or are these state?
State, so civil service.
Maybe you should put that there then. It's
Yeah.
more clear than outside, but thank you
Sure.
for that. But I come back to the chief to make sure he's got the resources he needs to continue to move these things forward. I mean, a lot of things are done and some things are in process. So it's looking good, but I'm just concerned that, if you're the only one really pushing this stuff, are you going to get overwhelmed by it?
No, I appreciate that, Mark. So there are some that are listed as difficult, and these are things that I am going to need assistance with. And Larry's been great with helping me out with a lot of things. And it's just going to be about conversations that we have to try to move some of these ones that are difficult forward. I don't know what resources we may need in the future to accomplish some of them. But, I'm not super concerned because I know the board, the mayor and Larry, you have all been supportive of our progress so far. So I'm not nervous about not having the resources, and I know where to go and who to ask for them. So I'm happy about that. And it's just a matter of having the conversations and coming up with the plans to tackle those more difficult ones.
Well, and also as a reminder, the board took a big step towards these resources by retaining the 2 lieutenant positions, even beyond the transition that we had from lieutenant to chief. So, those are resources that were specifically identified for projects like this.
Yeah, I also wanted to mention, Frank, what we talked about that I don't see on here actually, which is there was a survey of the police officers, and in our meeting this week, we talked about kind of revisiting that, and it sort of came at the tail end of our committee, but that there might be some action items that will come from the review of the police officer survey.
Yes, and we had spoken about the police officer survey, and really we need to dig a little bit deeper into it to see what actionable items there are on there. And, keep in mind that we discussed giving the survey again, I think within 3 years to compare it to where it was and see if we're moving in the right direction. So it is something that I don't want to leave on the back burner. I want to make sure, because I don't want the officers to feel that they completed a survey for no reason if we don't do anything with it. So I want to make sure whatever information we can pull from that to use to benefit the department and the officers, that we do that in the near future.
Yeah, and I think it would be good to update, right, this list to kind of include that piece of it.
So, kind of along what Mark was saying, one of my kind of thoughts on the end when we kind of got towards, got through everything was to maybe ask Frank if he can come back and say, maybe not February's meeting, but maybe March's meeting with some of the more difficult ones that you think you can, maybe start prioritizing some of the difficult ones, especially if you need resources or something, and we can, see if we can get some of those moving along as well. Because some of them might be like, it turned out this is going to be really difficult, and is it really worth it? Or, so there might be some of those judgment calls we can help you with as well. And there might be some you just say, I just need to have this access to this one resource I found out about, or whatever it is. So if we maybe want to, focus on the, kind of prioritizing some of the open items, and, if you could take a pass at kind of figuring out which ones are, just resource constrained versus, will take 2 years to complete, that kind of thing. So almost like, low hanging fruit. We're going to the mid hanging fruit now, I guess, that you might need help with.
And Brian, I was going to point out, there's what we're looking at on this page, at least what I'm seeing under data transparency technology, blah, blah, there's 3 listed specifically as not difficult. So I assume those are low hanging fruit as well. Although I don't know what's involved in, I take it that, for instance, the peaceful protest surveillance policy is fairly simple. The police officer survey, I think this is a little bit different than what Arlene was saying, in the sense that this is a regular survey, but it isn't necessarily pulling out the issues that were exposed in the first survey. That's what you were referring to specifically, wasn't it? Like not losing track of what intel came out of that survey.
Yeah, I think just timing wise, because it was such tight timing for the whole, for that whole review, that like, I think the results of the police officer survey, we were trying to remember, Frank, this week, like when exactly the timing was, but it felt very late. Like we were already almost finished drafting the report. And I do think it probably did not I don't think we had it in time to give it the attention it probably deserved. So I do think that has to happen. And then, yesterday we said it's, or the other day, that it was like probably every 3 years with the police survey and the community survey. So those are sort of like ongoing, right? We've had these benchmark surveys, and now going forward, we can kind of have these other surveys. But there's information from the ones that we have that we should look at, and then we know some of the challenges, some of those things, as anything, you have to take with a grain of salt, and like think about what factors that have changed, but we really did not have time to give it the attention that I think it needs to be given.
And one other item, Frank, that came to my eyes as we were scrolling back and forth through this, it's not on the screen right now, but the item dealing with body cams, is that up? Yes, provide body-worn cameras, and right below that is install dashboard cameras. Now, just as a crazy question, does the same company and the same mechanisms work in this case? Is it just an extension of the camera model and the data storage and access software, or is there a whole different system?
No, you could utilize the same vendor that we use for our body cameras for dash cameras. It would just be an additional cost for hardware, software, and probably additional cost for storage and that. So it's just really a matter of a cost benefit to see if the benefits of having the dash camera is worth the cost to them. If I had to pick personally between a body camera and a dash camera, I'd pick a body camera because it's a lot more useful and versatile than a dash camera is. But there are instances when dash cameras are helpful too. So it's really just a matter of doing an analysis about the cost of it versus what benefit we're going to get out of it.
And I imagine, one would imagine using the same company's services and products would probably save cost rather than, and certainly, software maintenance issues rather than having to start fresh with another vendor.
Yes, I agree. I think it would make it very simple to add on.
Anything else on this, or?
I think I found it super helpful to get an update, Chief. Maybe we can do it quarterly, even maybe February is too soon, but maybe we do it once a quarter. Just kind of get the update to keep the, and maybe we can also, as kind of a formatting thing, is maybe move all the completed items down below or something. So that way it's just a little easier to see what's still open. And then if you can come back next time and kind of give us your priority list of things you want to focus on, and we can make sure everything jives. And what you need to accomplish them, if there's outside resources or money or whatever it is.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Good. Well, thank you, Chief. I appreciate the update.
Thank you very much.
I
Thank you.
If I could just have 1 second, I just want to make a quick, public service announcement. We had a very large increase in vehicles being targeted for larcenies as well as stolen vehicles over the whole past year, but even more so recently. So I just want to remind everybody that's, listening to make sure you take your valuables out of your car, lock your car, and remove the keys from your car, because we've had stolen vehicles, an increase in stolen vehicles, and each case keys were left in the car, making it an easy target. So please, if everybody could just lock their cars, take their keys in, don't give these people an opportunity to take your belongings. It'll benefit us. And if you do have an issue where somebody's gone through your car, please report it to us just so we can keep track of locations and times and things like that.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
So I think that's the only agenda item, correct, Larry?
It is.
I will make a motion to adjourn then, if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Chief.
Good night, everyone.
Chief.
Thank you
Bye.
again, Frank.
Thank
Glad
you.
you're feeling better too.
Thanks very much.